Hello. Um, this video is about emotional abuse. Do you know the signs of emotional abuse in relationship from a spouse or romantic partner? It's Nothing is more damaging to your confidence and self-esteem than being in an emotionally abusive relationship. Unlike physical abuse, which rears its ugly head in dramatic um, outbursts, emotional abuse in a relationship can be more insidious and elusive. In some cases, neither the emotional abuser nor the victim is fully aware that the abuse is even happening. So, what is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse is a series of behaviors intended to control, manipulate, and confuse the victim. It is a kind of physiological trauma inflicted to create a power imbalance in the relationship. One definition of emotional abuse is that it is a form of brainwashing that slowly erodes the victim's sense of self-worth, security, and trust in themselves and others. In many ways, the effects of emotional abuse are more detrimental than physical abuse because it slowly uh, disintegrates one's sense of self and personal value. It cuts to the core of your essential being, which can create lifelong physiological scars and emotional pain. So why do people emotionally abuse others? Emotional abusers have a need to control and dominate the other person. And quite often it occurs because the abuser has childhood wounds and insecurities they haven't dealt with. Perhaps as a result of being emotionally abused themselves. They didn't learn healthy coping mechanisms or how to have positive, healthy relationships. Instead, they feel angry, hurt, fearful, and powerless. Although emotional abuse doesn't always lead to physical abuse is almost always preceded and accompanied by emotional abuse. So emotional abuse may not lead to physical abuse, but when physical abuse is present, there's usually some sort of emotional abuse before. The victim of emotionally abusive behavior quite often doesn't see the mistreatment as abusive. The victim develops coping mechanisms of denial and minimizing in order to deal with the stress. But the long-term effects can cause severe emotional trauma in the victim, including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So what are some signs of emotional abuse? They include things like, one is opposing. The abuser will argue against anything you say, challenging your perception, opinions, and thoughts. The abuser doesn't listen or volunteer thoughts or feelings, but treats you as an adversary, and in fact saying no to everything. So a constructive conversation is impossible. Two, blocking. This is another tactic used to abort conversations. The abuser may switch topics, accuse you, or use words that in effect say shut up. Three, discounting and belittling. This is verbal abuse that minimizes or trivializes your thoughts, feelings, or experiences. It's a way of saying that your feelings don't matter or you are wrong. Four, undermining and interpreting. These words are meant to undermine your self-esteem and confidence, such as, you don't know what you're talking about, or finishing your sentences or speaking on your behalf without your permission. Five, denying. An abuser may deny that agreements or promises were made or that a conversation or other events took place, including prior abuse. The abuser instead may express affection or make declarations of love and caring. Six, withholding affection. Withholding affection from a partner is a way to punish the partner and to exercise power and control. This is done intentionally and is sometimes stated to the partner by saying something like, no kisses until you can be nice again. Some partners withhold affection after a disagreement because they don't feel connected or they don't feel like offering loving gesture in the moment, but in such cases, the behavior happens only occasionally rather than on a frequent basis. Seven, threats. An abuser may threaten to expose you in a way to find embarrassing, or they may threaten to take something important away from you, such as money, your home, or even your kids. Some might threaten to leave you if they don't get their way, or they may say that they will tell your friends and family something personal about you, which is doubly damaging. as not only are they threatening you, but they are implicitly stating that there is something so wrong with you that you should feel ashamed. 8. Ultimatums. Ultimatums are really a covert threat, with the abuser placing the blame for having to make you decide about something back on you, the way they see it. The fact that they are giving you a choice, though, through which you can rectify the situation. 9. Lack of respect for privacy. This is often a subtle sign of abuse, of emotional abuse. Your partner may check your private messages or voicemails. They even might go as far as insist you share your email and social media accounts so they can analyze everything you do and say. 10. Property damage. This skirts the line between physical and emotional abuse. An abusive partner may break or lose something they know is meaningful to you as a way of punishing you or remind you that they hold the power. 11. Playing the blame game. Partners using power and control in a relationship often aren't insightful enough to notice the profound effects of their own behavior, nor are likely to ever be willing to take responsibility. So instead, if you hadn't done that, I'd have had to act in this way to response. 12. Alienation. Abusive partners often want to control who are you allowed to have meaningful connections with and how deep those connections should be allowed to run. Over time, because of this type of behavior, you may, lose contact with family, friends. And then finally, what I want to put for 13, control of resources. Partners may control financial or other resources as a form of punishment, or as a way of maintaining control in a relationship, causing you to believe that you won't be able to care for yourself. So that is some of the ways, for here. Sorry, lost track of where I was. So how to deal with emotional abuse. First, put your own needs first. Stop worrying about pleasing and protecting the abuser. Take care of yourself and your needs, and let the other person worry about themselves, even when they power or try to manipulate you to control your behavior. 2. Set some firm boundaries. Tell your abuser he or she will no longer yell at you, call you names, put you down, be rude to you, etc. If the bad behavior occurs, let them know you will not tolerate it and leave the room. Do not engage. Get in the car, go for a drive. So the next one is don't engage. If the abuser tries to pick a fight to win an argument, don't engage. With anger, over-explaining yourself, or apologies to them, just keep quiet and walk away. 4. Realize you can't fix them. You can't make the other person change or reason your way into their hearts and minds. 5. You're not to blame. If you've been enwrenched in an abusive relationship for a while, it can be crazy making. You start to feel like something must be wrong with you, and since this other person treats you so poorly. So keep in mind you're not to blame. And then after that is seek support. Talk to trusted friends and families, or a professional counselor about what you're going through. And finally, develop an exit plan. You can't remain in an emotionally abusive relationship forever. If finances or children or some other valid reason prevents you from leaving now, develop a plan for leaving as soon as possible. Begin saving money, looking for a place to live, or planning for divorce if necessary. So if you feel more in control and in power. So, finally, can an emotional abuser change? It is possible if the abuser deeply desires to change and recognizes his or her physiological abuse patterns and the damage caused by them. However, the learned behaviors and feelings of entitlement and privilege are very difficult to change. The abusers tend to enjoy the power they feel from emotional abuse, and as a result, a very low of abusers can turn themselves around. According to author Lundy Bancroft, here are some of the changes an abuser needs to make to begin recovery. So they have to admit fully what they have done, stop making excuses and blaming, make amends, accept responsibility, and recognize that abuse is a choice. identify patterns of controlling behavior they use, identify attitudes that drive their abuse, accept that overcoming abusiveness is a decade-long process, not declaring themselves cured, not demanding credit for improvements they've made, not treating improvements as vouchers to be spent on occasional acts of abuse, develop respectful, kind, supportive behaviors, carry their weight in sharing power, change how they act in heated conflicts, and accept the consequences of their actions. So, personal story. In one of my past relationships, my partner often opposed everything I said. He would tell me that that didn't happen or I didn't say that. He would even tell me my feelings were wrong. He would deny arguments, and then I would say I was gaslighting him whenever I tried to argue. Whenever I did say I'm done and try to leave him, he would threaten to hurt himself, and I didn't want that because despite everything, I thought I loved him and he loved me. Um, as stated here, abusers can change, but in my case, he couldn't admit that he was doing anything wrong. It took 2 years for me to finally leave him, but I did. He killed my self-esteem, and when someone did start treating me right, I felt like I didn't deserve it. I even tried to go back to my ex at one point thinking that I deserved to be treated like that. And I am everything he ever said to me, to put me down or to blame me for his actions. I didn't end up going back to him, luckily, but it was a thought because of how low he put me. And that can happen. And I think that happens a lot more with emotional than physical abuse. Um, so thank you for listening. Bye.